we're going to ask them if we can go up and have a look, actually. No, you don't know what they're going to do. Yeah.
They're in the bow.
Where are Oh, lovely.
Whatever.
We're hoping, not hoping, we're thinking about maybe getting a 2-year contract to come over and train to fly with Bristol's or Bristows or Lloyd's or one of the big companies. That'd be nice, just get a 2-year contract, swap houses for a year.
Reduce all the sticky weather.
Oh,
What have been bad?
beautiful.
It's been very, very good October. We did eat the best time of the year.
Give us that red jacket.
Fasteners around, attached to very flimsy bits of metal sort of thing. And these are screwed to the floor. If they'd had an accident, the whole lot would have ripped out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the back rattles.
That's the baggage out the back there.
Yeah, it's quite eerie being inside,
A couple
isn't
of
it?
bunks and a table.
Yeah, we've got some marvellous photos, Vic.
Mm.
Father, yeah, he built the first he helped build the first.
He assembled the first plane in Australia in 1913.
Air
Yeah,
Force.
we must have been getting on my day. Remember the Strata cruisers came out and they said, oh, we've got a 2-deck aircraft now. I said, Christ, we've had those in
Australia for years.
Well, in flying for years.
Yeah.
The Americans had them, we had them. But typical press stuff, of course, you know.
These people back in Brisbane are going to hate us. And, oh, they'll love it. Just love it. And all the old girls came up and she said, did you know your father gave me away when I got married? And yeah.
Yeah, the memories are still there, aren't they?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, they.
Peter, you know, it's behind you, just down below there. Because, as you know, on the Lord Howe Island run, the schedule wasn't the same every
It was a day.
It depended
Went on the tide.
Weather.
Tide.
Ron's. Graham?
What's that?
To us it's nice, but it's better to be in a place like this where everybody can see it.
Oh, yeah, well, they've got a good alcohol session here.
Yep.
Mr. Written, I just talked to him, the chap in charge of it. He said, the last couple of months ago, he said, the amount of stuff that comes in, it's coming in from all over the world.
Well, I have.
They're the ones that do a plug change, you know.
Yeah.
You see, there's no radiators on it at all. The killing was done with the double skin on the main planes on the top of the hold, and that was the radiator. And they boosted the engine up from. Met him through Aquila. I didn't come here to the Aquila reunions.
Yes.
Norman Hull runs it, and he happened to be here, and we got met together and talked
And his
about it.
wife's a lunatic, isn't she?
I didn't have much to do with it, really.
She was crazy. We stayed there long, in Australia. They're not normally there. Oh, she wasn't at all pleased with that. But I mean, she's a lovely lady, but just a bit balmy.
This is the old space we had here at Southampton. It's just around the corner here, actually. And there's old Queen Mary in here, of course.
Oh,
and, they had
right.
these pontoons, and we put
Very-
on pick up the water, and then they'd walk into the water. Same thing in Rose
It's flying.
It's slightly bigger.
Is it?
Oh no, once you got in the air, the idea was to lift a heavily laden aircraft off into the air and then get it going, because you need a hell of a lot of power to get off
Get
the
up.
water.
Once you're up, you're right.
That's it. So they get up to a reasonable height and then launch it, and away you go. DCT Bennett, the Pathfinder bloke, threw it. He was in charge of Pathfinder during the war.
Oh, look at it, yeah.
They were built over the water.
So where's that on this?
This is the nose.
You know, there's a photograph of the aircraft there. and
Is
it
it
wasn't elevated.
Oh, right,
They
okay.
did map the Barrier Reef with
They
the
go
bar
to
up
the
there,
pub?
but it was part of the
PG
setup.
Taylor owned a Selland type, but it had the bar down the back.
No, he had one of these. Sandringham.
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 And
Different
it had
setup.
the bar down the back.
It was built especially for BOC. They were operating Canal Cloud Central, the music to New York. And the American go fly up to sort of service with their base, but they didn't come in because the land banks took over. So the three kept by BOC and we used them on the Far East. So we had these three. We moved it properly, or we moved it on the French airline, didn't it? And that one is in the Museum of the Bordeaux.
Well, we had PG Taylor's Frigate Bird too, the Catalina. We had that in our hangar for years, and now it's sitting in the Powerhouse Museum.
Because had to get this thing exactly right, and the right side and all the rest of it. So he's actually planned to the thing, you could work it out with photographs and things. Yeah.
Bloody great big helicopter there. Just some bronze tapes. Used in this best plan of attack with all of that.
Well, we'll have to go through it.
It's just what gets done with it though, you know, like is it? No, it's just that we want it to be done right, you know, we want it to go somewhere where that it'll be remembered and for him.
Mostly it's like down by the big, this, because you know, the beach cabin is down by the science pavilion and the Experiment Trust. They played, what was it, 48?
Well, are there younger ones that are still keen, or is it just going to die
I
next?
haven't found many around this area. They're interested in it, but the state is taking over.
No, because
I'll
there's
see
no
them pop up. You never know if they pop up out of it.
English aviation.
Following on the flying boat bloke, and there was a glassy calm day, and Terry and I, and my wife and kids were down at the beach at Calshot, and it was foggy, and I could hear this thing up above. I've never seen it, but I could hear these Metrovic engines, a very high-pitched note, somebody buzzing around up top, wind, and there's the worst conditions for a flying boat landing because you always powered the things in because you couldn't see the surface of the water, same as the night landing, and. I could hear this thing coming in with power off, and suddenly an enormous bang, and I said to Terry, I said, Christ, he's at it. And we didn't know any more until it hit the papers, and apparently a test pilot by the name of, what was his name now? Winkle Brown. He's a very famous test pilot, but he'd never flown flying boats much at all. And he told
Or again.
been Winkle about this one. And it was a very strange bloke, and he'd been allowed to fly this thing this day, and the chief test pilot, Tyson, he was a very famous pilot, a test pilot especially, he's one of the best flying boat pilots in the world in his day, and he'd allowed this chap to fly it, being a test pilot, and I think he didn't power the thing in, and he misjudged the water, and hit the water, and he allowed his bow to go down, which is the worst thing to do with a flying boat, because the centre of a turning is transferred from the step here to the bow, and you just can't control them. That's what happened to this Catalina the other day. And what sort of movies are these people doing this sort of thing? And he dropped his bow, and of course the intake is up there, the nose of the aircraft, and the engine's at the back here, and you can imagine all this cold water going on an engine, with the jet pipe temperature of 620 degrees centigrade.
Did it blow up?
Nobody knew what the temperature was inside the engine those days. They probably do now. And you can imagine the buckets of cold water going into something hot, and it just went boom. Blew it, never found the aeroplane. He got out of it, and then what's his name whipped him out of the water. Went over his back and went straight in the water, and that was it. Bang, blew up.
Dead?
So we left one.
Oh dear.
So it's got a little bit of.
Yeah.
But you go in that hole there, in there, I've been there when it was up at Buxton,
Yeah.
and you can walk around there, it's like an engine. You couldn't put you only have a single pilot there, so I think it was built for the Pacific campaign, so operating from the island, but the worst thing you didn't want out there, because you'd have to put on the water and be sitting duck for any fight, be the end of it. And you'd have to pull it out of the water and put the gear on.
Oh, they've still got the sea rigs.
Yeah,
I rode all the pilots now.
the pilot had to go first because that's how the
His door. Yeah.
so you
his
see
hatch.
up there, nothing could happen. But, anyway, it's a fixed sort of simulator, but we use it in the air. This firm operated down in Herne, but it's really the Bournemouth Airport now. And it's quite a bit now. Changing the directors and things, or whatever it got called.
Because they came up for that pub I was telling you about that had the flying boat in it and all the memorabilia, and they came up and we talked to them about what we should do with Ron.
We had John Gorton there and everyone.
John Gorton is a Prime Minister, like an upmarket sort of eating, drinking place. It's not a pub, but it's a place to go from there and a beer. That's how come we met Don Cully. Don Cully's thing. He was up at the time, every 3 months, the association, sort of stirs us up to go down there because we forget.
Oh, it's not far.
Oh, right. I wonder how they got around and did it. How anything survived when you see that.
That's good to put that guy in the Ansett.
Oh, that's
Colours.
funny.
Yeah. When we launched at Len Solomon to bring it down here from the naval base, we lost our at Calshop. We lost the tail trolley when we put it in. There was about 6 of us putting it in against about 20 or 30 in the rough. And it got away from us, and we lost the tail trolley.
Where to?
Right. You see,
Right.
right. Falls off. We get a photograph. We get a photograph of him falling off. Right now, where
That's
are
great. Right, okay, if everyone can look this way, can we bunch
we? Can
up
you look
a
that
bit?
way, then?
Can we, if
Can
we
you
just
just
go
look that?
Right, that's great there to start off with. Hold on, let me just actually down. Okay then, everyone this way.
I like the handlebars.
Hold on. Let me get this spot on. I want to get this right first time. Okay, I'm just going to hold there for a second. And I'll just try it again. Lovely, hand this way again. That's lovely. Where you got your hand, Vic? I was going to say it looks a bit dodgy from here.
Where's your hand? Just yes, please.
Okay.
Go
If I'm looking this way, then lovely. Let's take one there. Just again. One more. I don't know if it's possible. Can you get it?
Group hand.
That's it. Yeah.
Great. Okay, this way again. Lovely.
Louis as well. Hanging nooses.
Andrew, when were these?
Yeah. I was going to say that we're here for another 5 weeks, so
Yeah, then you know exactly how much steel you got.
switch over. I actually sat in what aircraft, Graham, in St Croix?
Just one.
This one. I've got a photo of me sitting on this side with Noel Holly.
Did he?
What was it before Christmas?
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a long time. He was
Oh,
living
no.
at Port Macquarie.
No, yeah. Been up there to visit them, actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
You right?
Oh,
Ready for takeoff?
Yes, Clearport.
Start number 1.
Dunno.
Take pictures in any light.
No, it's I'm over a barrel on that one.
Oh, of course, you turn the switches on first. Switches
The
on.
main planes.
It comes up. And if it starts glowing again, you've still got a fire. So then, you lift that one and put that fire wick on, you see.
Here's the
Lights are always bad for photographing this, but
Don't hold your finger on the button.
Oh, okay. That's all coming out. Say hello, Vic.
Hello
to
there.
everybody back in Australia.
hello there.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Oh.
Not now.
You should have heard the Super Connie when it sure can.
The port out was the one that they was unserved for, and they flew it across the Atlantic. I'll sort of
Go along.
contribute. And Ron said, well, I want clear weather all the way across. There's no de-icing on the aircraft because there's only hot air on the carbs. I want clear weather all the way and a sort of reasonable wind. And so after, I think it was the second night or so, this chap came to him. He said, well, you've got to go tomorrow. He said, for two reasons. He said, you'll be frozen up in the moorings if you don't leave tomorrow. The weather's setting in and you lose the aircraft anyhow. And the other thing, I put the satellite chart across the weather across the Atlantic. He said, and, there's a clear patch roughly on the Great Circle all the way to Ireland, but there's a lot of stuff at the other end there you have to get through. But it's clear all the way. So Ron said, right, we'll pack up and go. Taking off in 17 cylinders. I don't know how they blanked off that cylinder to this day.
Oh, you can still see it. That one.
How did they blank it off? They didn't blank off the oil because the engine was running.
Oh
So
no,
they
they re-diverted the oil
Yeah,
back into the
yeah.
crankcase.
The pipe had broken anyhow, didn't it? That's how to modify that. Anyhow, he had a little job starting this engine up and got it going, got off, and I said, "How'd you navigate?" He said, "I didn't." I said, "I sat in that seat for 15 hours." He said, "I flew the clouds." He said, "I kept the clouds on that side and the clouds on that side." He said, "I wasn't going to get out of the seat because the first officer didn't have any clues." I think he was the only bloke with a licence on the aircraft, actually. Just the engineer wasn't a flight engineer. And I don't know
He's
where
died a
Ron's
thousand
licence.
times, probably.
Don't know where Ron had
Keep going.
had a licence or not. So they came to this cloud at the other end with a bit of a front. They couldn't get through it because of the icing. And eventually picked up Shannon, and Shannon gave them steers through this lot, and they landed at Killaloe. But it was a pretty hectic trip. They easily wanted to get out of the seat to test something up.
And they sat there for about 6 months, and he finally got hold of me as flight engineer to engineer it. But they were going to get some hopeless twit on that had been flying Tiger Moss, you know, he knew all about flying. And so Ron got hold of me, and I came out. They never told me that there were only 13 cylinders on the bloody outboard end. They never said a word about that. And so, you know, I did a quick DI on them and checked all the switches. I did change a constant speed motor from that one. And this bloke that we're going to get as flight engineer says, "Oh, he'll be all right without that." I said, "Like hell it will." I said, "You won't get the pilot to go in the air with it stuck in full fine." So he said, "How are we going to change it?" I said, "There's 4 nuts on the bottom, an electrical connection on top." I said, "You whip them up and you whip the new one on, and that's all there is to it." Oh, so I made him do it.
Learn.
I said, "I'm too old for this sort of thing." And so he did it, and we were okay. But I didn't know that there was one engine with only 13 working cylinders on.
This is really a great museum.
Kept the big eye up and the gap between the two, and it depends on the angle you look at it. There's a few holes in the gaps when they stored the stuff out in the dock area and stick something over it. Damage you get on
Bit
the
of war damage?
No, with these bloody boats are coming close to you.
Yeah.
Not missing every time.
Gee, you certainly utilised all the space, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is that a proper plane, this thing here?
Sorry?
What's this thing here?
Well, it's a mock-up actually.
Yeah.
Some old bloke decided to want to build one, and he gave us the bits that he got so far, and we finished it off in sort of way. But they built about half a dozen of them on the Isle of Wight in the 1480 war. They are now the observation boats, type of equipment they used. And this is to deal with the beachcomber setting it up. And ATC, it's all air training corps at this end. The old Dick Frogger's up there, he's standing up the top there,
Yeah.
on top of the engine hall. And down here is a bit more books and things in the old days of air training corps. And more uniforms and things behind you here with the guard. See one bloke's lost his hat.
It sure has.
And round this side, yeah.
Oh, look, old link trainer.
Yeah, that's the old link trainer and the radio operators with the old Marconi. I think that's what I call 198 at the radio tool.
That's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was a lucky pilot, wasn't he?
Yeah, he started as a sergeant pilot, I think, and I suppose he ferried them. I couldn't have done many hours on some of them. Probably just
No, he probably just sat in them.
But, going to Rome with a fairly light load, of course, short sector, we could pull between 6,000 and 8,000 feet a minute off the deck.
Full of people. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, remember we went down to Eston, and we terminate there sometimes in Melbourne, and you come back in the taxi the next morning to the airport, the taxi driver says, "Give us a good one this morning, skipper," because you're only going to Sydney. This is Andy Page. He built these things for getting between different parts of UK. He built different ones, and as you can see, there's another two type built. This is an 504K, which was used by the Air Force pre-war. They used them from the 1418 war when they were fighters, up till almost the last war, used them as training aircraft. They re-engined them, but the basic airframe was the same. And British Aerospace had this one made up and presented to us. They reckon it's flyable if it had the right engine in it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
My father and I just set up a workshop in Australia to build replica aeroplanes, and just before he died, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I've still got all the gear, but I don't know that we'll ever get the planes built.
No. You probably get plans and things from the either science museum or the RF machine.
Yeah, I'll get the plan. I could get the plans. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great aeroplane collection, isn't it?
Yes, I don't know what this one was. The valves were held in position. They had very weak springs on them, but the valves were held in position by the centrifugal force of the engine spinning round. So all they needed, the push rods, was when they're starting up, so they operated in the startup. But the gas came through the sump like the old two-stroke engines.
Yeah.
You know, all this focusing it out. But I like the leads.
They're amazing, aren't they?
There's haircut companies that exist in Southampton.
All right.
They'll be able to.
Sorry, darling, what did you say? Coming. I'm hungry too.
How many hours does that run for?
Each battery about 20 minutes.
20 minutes? What about the film itself?
Films in 1 hour.
1 hour?
Yeah.
Seaplane?
Yeah.
Beautiful looking machine.
Oh, it's just phenomenal.
It's quite unique, you know, the way they sorted things out.
For that.
Put more powerful engine in just for training. Have a picture on that air screw.
Yeah, the screw's phenomenal. The air screw is absolutely phenomenal.